And it's trying to at least hold Montana State to a field goal, because even though you see this here, North Dakota State's pretty dang efficient in the red zone, but they're also kicking the ball quite a bit more than Montana State. Right?
FCS Fans Nation, the time has come. There are no more episodes left to be able to say it is time to tiptoe, hidey-ho, down to Frisco. Welcome to the National Championship Preview episode. We hope you had an incredible holiday. We hope you have a great, safe New Year's. And if you're listening to this podcast, whether you're staying home in Bozeman, home in Fargo, or anywhere around the nation, we hope this gives you a great preview and insight to the National Championship game. Montana State Bobcats, North Dakota State Bison. Here we go. Gentlemen, it's an exciting day as we are going to crown a new FCS champion here on a Monday evening of all things. But before we go too far into football, we should probably stick to the holiday season. And we don't have Jamie Williams here tonight. We have a little bit of an upgrade. Mr. the Rev himself, who will be joining us in Frisco. And Rev, we are in opposite polar directions and climates. How was your warm, beautiful Christmas, my friend?
It was good. It was it was good. It just was long. I'm glad Christmas is over with, because it's just a lot being around families, multiple. But it was good. Glad this is one of my Christmas presents from my wife, the national championship shirt from the year I was born, which is kind of sick.
Look at that.
So that'd be a perfect time to wear it. And I just want to shout out Jamie Williams, because he did this last year also. You do the show before Frisco, and he does it all year long, then gets too busy with family to show up and do this. Like, what a bum. What a bum.
Yeah, the families have overtaken us through the podcast season. Just these last 2 weeks, we felt it. Kyler last week, Jamie this week, the Mega Live. But that's a good thing, right, Kyler? And how was that holiday season? You had some good friends in town.
It was a nightmare, and a great nightmare. I went back up home to Seattle and had 4.5 days to visit 4 families, and each one lives about 3.5 to 4 hours away from each other. So we did the nice triangle, went over, a snowy mountain pass, chains required. That was a fun time, because I haven't been up in the snow in, 15 years since I lived up there. So, we made it all right. A couple of cars were in the ditch, but not us, because we're a champ. So, it was a lot. I'm glad to be home.
Yeah, it's a long, when you get that midweek Christmas time frame, it does feel like a big stretch. So
yeah.
Don't worry, next year's Thursday, so that really will change a lot. But we hope everybody had a great Christmas holiday season, no matter what you celebrate. And then, of course, if you're listening to this on Sunday evening, we hope your New Year's is incredible, because we are running into 2025, guys, with a very quick championship game. January 6th, Monday night, we're going to have the Bison, we're going to have the Bobcats. Stay tuned for the end of this episode and midway through for a little bit of discussion on where you can find us, as the whole FCS Fans Nation crew is heading down there. Airbnb, Taco King, the Rev here, Kylor, myself, Jamie, Chris Hammond, and a whole plethora of other people who are involved with the Bison Bobcats and those who aren't. Thumper, Chad, all these great, incredible humans. We're going to have the FCS poll guys. Make sure you guys are following us. If you watch us on YouTube, you will see basically our hashtags, and within the description on YouTube is our Twitter accounts. We're not trying to blow our Twitter followers up, but now would be a good time to follow us for at least a week if you're making the trip down, because we will tweet constantly of where we're at, what we're doing. And we'll get together with greats like Sam Herders and others. We'll tell you where we're going to eat. We'll tell you where we're going to party. We'll tell you where we're going to tailgate. And that way, if you're just kind of down there and you're looking for some extra people, some great fans to hang out with, we'd love to have you. So no shameless plug for FCS Gold or the page, just a plug for you to come hang out with us in Frisco. And we're excited to see everybody once they get down there. With that being said, it's time for us to get into the more important things, which is who's going to win this game, how are they going to do it, and what are the impacts that are going to make this such a great matchup. Let's get to the top 6 topics of the FCS national title.
What are FCS fans talking and posting about nonstop? It's time for the top 6 topics of the week.
pretty obvious what everybody's talking about, gents. They are talking about the national championship, and that is where all of our questions led to. And we get led off by one of the best, literally an FCS Gold member, an incredible human, Cody Werlinger, who joined us, myself and Mr. Parlay, for a little preview episode live last week. Thanks again to him and Eric for doing that. And he starts us off pretty simple, guys. He says, what are the top 3 keys for each team to win this game? Bobcats versus Bison, top 3 factors. Kylor, through our DM and messaging, you kind of gave me a hint to where your mind's thinking with this, and I loved your opinion, so I don't really have one. I'm going to let you take the floor. What are you thinking for these top 3 keys?
Watch, I'm going to say something completely different. You're like, Kylor, that's not what you said, because, again, I bullshit my way through life. Half the things I say aren't real. No, the biggest thing is I don't even know if there's really 3, because both teams are playing phenomenal ball. And, I hate to throw out the word perfect, but they're playing pretty dang perfect ball. But the big thing that I want to point out is mainly the third downs. And maybe, Matt, that's where you're referring to. I think that is going to be a huge, huge thing. Can NDSU slow down Montana State on their third down conversions? Because Montana State's number one or number 2 in all the FCS, right? They convert that third down and just extend the game over and over, and it's almost impossible to stop them. Where this may be NDSU's only flaw. They're at the bottom of the FCS. I think like bottom 40 in terms of stopping people on third down conversions. So if NDSU can, the good news is there's 3 weeks of prep time, right? And you give NDSU always 3 weeks of prep time, and there's a reason why they've won so many national titles. They tend to do a really good job focusing in playing a team to the best of their ability. But if they can stop Montana State on that third down conversion, then the game, I think, becomes quite a bit more interesting. If they can't, this could be a very long day for North Dakota State. And that's a weird thing to say, especially with the dynasty of North Dakota State, where there's a potential chance where this could be a long day. But again, NDSU ranks in the 80s in stopping people on third down. And Montana State is 1 or 2 in the nation by a pretty large margin. So can they slow down Montana State's offense? I mean, that's going to be the big kicker.
Yeah, third down percentage conversion for defense. So, yeah, correct. Offensively, they're there. Third down for defense, Montana State gets teams off the field. They're actually 13th in the nation. Opponents have converted 65 out of 203 attempts. And then I know you're talking about their offense there for them being top 2. But North Dakota State on the defensive side of the ball, 81st for third down conversion, getting teams off the field. 188 attempts by teams, and those teams have converted 79 of them. So, you can, that's a big gap. That's a pretty darn big gap. And we actually saw it in the SDSU-NDSU semifinal game, right?
Yeah.
So NDSU goes up those 7 points. There's 8 minutes left. And we're all in the stands like, boy, get a stop and go get a field goal. And this sucker's over. Mark Gronowski, third down.
Yeah.
Touchdown.
And so, I do think this Montana State offense is quite a bit better than South Dakota State's this year. Light years better, especially on short down situations. They have a 3-headed monster in the backfield, including Tommy Malott. They got wide receivers who can, just get a quick little out route. So it's going to be really tough on short downs to try and stop this locomotive that is Montana State. Another thing is it's really the red zone. I mean, this is, again, Montana State's offense looks better than I've ever seen them. They're number 1 in the FCS in terms of red zone efficiency at 97%. That's pretty wild to think of. So when they're in the 20-yard line, they're scoring 97% of the time. That is wild. And now the good thing is North Dakota State's also very dang efficient in the red zone. I think they're at 92, 93%. But again, it's if Montana State's getting in that red zone, you hopefully, worst case scenario, you try and settle for a field goal. Don't let them actually get that touchdown, because if they get that touchdown, it's going to be pretty tough to stop. So yeah, that's kind of the takeaways.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into the weaknesses. The cool Kylor is going to take us into that for the second question, but I will say you're right. On the screen here on YouTube, red zone offense, Montana State number 1. They were number 2 for third down efficiency in the FCS. Now, red zone offense, just like you said, North Dakota State is 6. Yeah, and then when you talk about that third down conversion percentage, NDSU is within a few slots of Montana State, but that's all offense. Your main point here is defensively.
And it's trying to at least hold Montana State to a field goal, because even though you see this here, North Dakota State's pretty dang efficient in the red zone, but they're also kicking the ball quite a bit more than Montana State, right? So I get there's only a 4% gap in terms of percentage of getting in the red zone, putting points on the board, but there's more points getting put on the board by Montana State on this one. So it's if they're in the red zone in that 20-yard line, hopefully you can get a stop, maybe create a turnover, but worst case scenario, try and get a field goal, because that's where Montana State, it's out of 63 attempts, they've only kicked 9 field goals. That's wild. So,
it's absolutely,
and then, North Dakota State out of 71 attempts, they've kicked a little bit more. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
It's going to be awesome. And 2 huge keys there. Jamie, Cody Werlinger is looking for at least 3. Feel free to add on if you want to. What do you see with keys between these games?
Well, first of all, I'm not Jamie.
I was going to see if he would keep talking. I was like, will he keep going? I was like, I'll do this as natural as possible. And let's see if he just goes.
That was really, really well done. No, Kylor hit a lot. That's okay. I would leave don't even take this part out, but leave the other part in. It was good. Anyway, so Kylor touched on the other on the big main points. So I think for it used to be NDSU just for their key to win the game was they just had to get on the plane to Frisco, right? They're they went in most times and there wasn't much in the way of competition. This year is drastically different than years before, and they have to force Tommy Mellott to beat them in the air. Between Humphrey, Jones, and Mellott, they have almost 3,400 yards of rushing between those 3 guys. While you've got some great receivers and like Taco Dowler and McCullough, right? They're not big yardage guys. They are, they're short. They're about 15 yards of play, but it's not like they're necessarily beating you with bombs or anything like that. So NDSU has got to keep the ground game contained, and they've got to make Tommy Mellott throw on them.
The only thing about that is also Tommy's the most efficient quarterback.
Yeah, I know. That's the other problem, right? Is that Tommy Mellott is the most efficient quarterback in the FCS, and Tommy Mellott should win the Walter Payton Award, but he's not going to. So yeah, I think this is the first time, maybe with the exception of when they play South Dakota State, that North Dakota State is actually coming in, and it seems like at a big disadvantage when you look at it. But it's really hard to discount North Dakota State in games like this too.
For sure. And honestly, and Bobcat fans, you can judge me off this. You absolutely can. To say that I've watched a ton of Montana State this year besides clips and catch up would be false. Saw the whole USD Montana State game. You talk about NDSU tackling and defense and holes, you better have better rush defense on a grand scale. Okay. NDSU is not going to be dropping snap balls the whole game. And I saw some defenders that were I saw USD running backs taking holes. I saw that offensive line of USD doing their thing. And I don't think I need to remind Montana State fans in terms of things that have happened in the past where NDSU has just opened holes and then opened up an entire game. So I know Montana State's defense, which we're going to get to this question, has been impressive. But Parlay even tweeted it out and this is one of my keys to the game here to add on to you guys. Parlay even tweeted out, he goes, man, again, we struggle to tackle and stop a Valley rushing attack. So if Cam Miller gets running backs going 5.5 to 6 yards, not every play, but like 3-4 times a drive, and he then gets that open opportunity, then we have to see what Montana State's defense is capable of. So I would say a key to a game to wrap all that up, to go more towards the NDSU side, is you have to take advantage of the rushing attack and actually be able to run the ball on this Montana State defense. Very simplistic thing, simplistic take, heard it 15 years in a row, but NDSU, of course, has to be able to run the ball. Now let's roll into it because we were close on the edge a few times there. Kylor Elliott, our favorite Kylor in the world here. He says, what is the weakness of each team that, if exposed, will help lift either to win? This is really interesting. And I'm gonna hold off because I only found one statistical area that Montana State looks weak on paper. I'm gonna say it and then I'll let you guys run with it. Now I know how effective an O'Grady is, but 87th passing offense is Montana State. That's the 87th passing offense in the nation. Is that the Bison bump of the past where you say, why would we pass when we just run over you? or is it something that is a weakness to be exposed? Give me that breakdown, Kylor. Neil, what do you think?
It would be hard to say it's their weakness when, again, he's the number one efficient quarterback in the FCS. I mean, that is the real stat right there. He's literally number one in QB efficiency. Pull it up, Matt. So no, it's because literally
I'm only showing one part of that.
No,
stat.
it's literally because they're running all over people, and most of their games has been over in Q2. So they're not throwing the ball in Q3, Q4 also. The difference is Tommy Mellott, if you've actually watched Montana State games, when he is throwing the ball, I mean, he's throwing the ball that 2 years ago we said they're 50-50 balls. No, tight spirals in 3 defenders where only his guy can catch it. But also, can I go back to what you said about like the tackling of South Dakota? Just because I want to just trash on Matt a little bit. They actually did better stopping the run with their lines average yards than North Dakota State did. So maybe South Dakota is just that good and their line play was that good. Again, they dominated the team that beat North Dakota, and North Dakota State gave up 9.1 yards per rush, where Montana State only did like 8.7, 8.8. So it's pretty even in the grand scheme of stopping that run. The only difference is Montana State runs the ball way more and way harder than North Dakota State this year. But the weakness, I don't see a lot of weaknesses between these two teams outside of that third down, maybe conversion. I think both teams have an electric quarterback. I do think Cam Miller is playing phenomenal. I think he's the best quarterback in the league right now. I will say that. I know Dustin will probably shake his head. Jamie might shake his head too. But I think Cam Miller is probably the best quarterback in the league right now. And then you're playing probably the most dynamic quarterback in the league in terms of Tommy Mellott. So they're going toe-to-toe, both defenses. Even when you look at the stats and you try and find a weakness, because there is a couple weaknesses on both teams, when you watch them play, that weakness kind of goes out the window. And that's where sometimes stats and numbers lie to you, because these teams are very effective defensively. They're very effective offensively. They're creative with how they're running, how they're passing, how they're developing plays. Their line play is good. It's hard for me to say there is a weakness. I don't think it's the passing. And I think it's just because Montana State was running the ball down everyone's throats and the game was over at halftime for like 9 out of their 12 games. So, I don't really see a weakness in North Dakota State either. I just don't. The only thing that's maybe a weakness in terms of both of their teams' wide receiver play, but they still have some freak wide receivers on both sides of the ball. I mean, both teams. So this is the first time where I don't think there's a great weakness in both of the teams that's going to Frisco, where normally if you point out all these episodes from me in the past, I'm pointing out a weakness on at least one of the teams and going, this is why this team's going to win. I don't see it. I think this is about as close to a 50-50 game as we've seen in Frisco in a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes it very exciting. I will say that the linebacker play and the secondary play within the tackling department for NDSU seems to have elevated over the playoffs. But if it has a bad game, it's a long day for the Bison. And there's a reason that for tackling efficiency, they're in the hundreds. Like it's terrible. But if Tommy Mellott and the Montana State team is getting to the second level and those NDSU players are going to those shoulder bumps instead of real tackles, they are not as great of a tackling and defensive unit. They haven't been all year the way South Dakota State was. I don't care how that played out. Just game by game, play by play. So again, stats kind of lie because it seems to have been tightened up. And early in the season, it was really, really, really bad. But that is definitely a weakness I think Montana State could take advantage of. And we don't really have a question for what is the game? But that is the game. That is the game. If NDSU's linebackers and young secondary play lights out tackle Bison football, I think the Bison are going to win. I think they're going to make enough offensive plays. If they get exposed on the tackling department, I think Montana State's going to have a good day and they're going to win a national title. That hopefully didn't ruin the rest of the questions, but I think in terms of the weakness,
game over.
We're done.
But that's what Jamie and you are going to say, right? You guys are going to say there's virtually no weakness. I think that is the one thing. Kickers, quarterbacks, offensive line, defensive lines, coaches are great. Oh my gosh, these teams are awesome. I think it's that one department that's going to make or break this ball game. And if Montana State fans, you can be as mad as you want to be on this, but you're thinking it like I'm thinking it. If the athlete and the talent of North Dakota State, of what it's always been, is just better, despite what the stats show, then North Dakota State can do things to shut you down and win. Is it equal and on par? It sure looks like it's going to be equal and on par this year, and it sure looked like it last year when they went to Bozeman. Jamie, what do you got? I'm not editing these out. I'm not.
So
by the way, the first one was intentional. That one was natural. I saw the name and I was like, oh crap.
No, it's all good. No, I think Kylor touched on just about everything, and then you did with the tackling. I think, NDSU's tackling does look better in the playoffs than it did, earlier in the season. I think if there's a gap, maybe it is NDSU secondary being a bit younger than Montana State's. I think Montana State at all the secondary positions have better players overall than North Dakota State. But again, Kylor was 100% nailed it. This is a 50-50 game. This is probably the tightest matchup we've had in Frisco in a while.
JMU and DSU.
So, yeah, probably since JMU and DSU.
Oh, take me back. But that was, talk about a stressful game, but a fun game. Okay, since you guys just talked about the past, if you ask good questions, we've said on the show before, you just keep on rolling. Mr. Kylor Elliott did that again by saying, does last year's matchup between Montana State and North Dakota State have any implication to this year's championship? What I like about this question is it's about the mental game. And you guys know I cop out because I don't know as much about football as everybody. And I just say, I bet they're nervous. And then I pick the other team, right? Well, here we go. Which one of these teams is going to have more of the last year and even before? Who's going to have the most impacts? What do you think there, Rev, in terms of the mental matchup between these squads?
You got it right. No, okay, so let's just be honest. It's for Montana State, they've got demons that they have to shake off for this game. Because there's two things. One, they're trying to be the 9th team in FCS history to go perfect. Or the 9th time, probably not the 19th, because I think North Dakota State is a few of those. But so that's one thing they have. Two, they want to shake off, their horrible record against North Dakota State. Montana State's 1-5 all time against the Bison. And they're 0-5 in the postseason.
Now look at all those. They're not 1-5. Matt pulled it up.
Well, 1-5 FCS. Rev's right.
1-5 FCS. I don't talk about. We're not talking about D2. We're not talking about.
That's all it's going to say Montana State talk about. Just D2 relevance.
No, we're not talking about D2. Okay. It's like Sam Houston fans talking about the national championship they won. It doesn't matter now. Okay. So at the FCS level, Montana State is 0-5 against NDSU in the playoffs. Okay. That is what they're going to have to shake off. They're going to have to get past this mental aspect that I feel like a lot of teams have when they're like, oh crap, we're playing NDSU, and you can say it's not there, but it's there. Whether it's the talent that NDSU has year over year, whether it's the golden horseshoe that NDSU has hanging around or up certain orifices, there is a mental aspect to this game, and Vegan and company. I mean, Vegan knows it. He's been on the other side of it, right? So I think that's what they have to get through their heads. They have to let last year's game go. They have to let the first time in Frisco go where Malot's ankle was basically destroyed by the turf. They just have to let those things go and focus on the now versus the past.
I actually think last year is their big help. I had that take at North Dakota State would have less of a chance to beat SDSU in the playoffs if they lost the marker game, because it would just mentally again crush them. They needed the positive, we got them, we know we can beat them energy. And I know Montana State lost last year on what was the most ridiculous thing with that Bozeman block play. But last year, I think, is going to be one of the biggest helps to this specific team. There's players on this team for Montana State that were on 2021's field, to include Tommy Malott, through the injury, and watched NDSU just train wreck them. But then they got them in their own arena and they lost on the most ridiculous way, but it was shown that they could stand up and be neck and neck with NDSU. Now, both teams are thinking the same thing. All Bobcat fans, we talked about this with Parlay. We talked about this on Mega Live. Montana State fans are thinking this. Well, geez, we're so much better than 2023. Well, North Dakota State fans are thinking the same damn thing, and we all see it. It's all true. I think in terms of last year's implication, it is a huge positive to Montana State. I think it does nothing for North Dakota State. I think NDSU's been here. They've done this. I think what NDSU's thing is not about Montana State. It's about NDSU football in the program, and we have lost the mantle. It's been taken from us. We got our butts kicked by SDSU in 2022. We've never recovered. All of us six-year seniors came back, and it's time to retake the crown. We don't care who is in Frisco. So I think it's less about Montana State on the side of what NDSU's thinking. I do think for Montana State, they are thinking about NDSU, but it's a positive. I do not think it's a stressful negative. Kylor, what do you think about the mental game? Something you don't really rely on. You rely on facts.
No, I think the mental game is probably actually going to be a huge factor in this one. I don't know so much if I think it's going to be positive or negative. I really haven't put too much thought into it. I do agree with you. I don't think it's going to affect North Dakota State as much because they have one thing on their mind, and it's just winning a national title and it's getting back to beating North Dakota State. Where Montana State, it's, North Dakota State has been that monkey, like the Rev was saying. They can't get past them. They can't get past those Missouri Valley teams. Well, this year they finally did that, right? They beat the crap, and I do think they beat the crap. That was not very competitive. I'm sorry, Brian Taco King. It was up by 17 points, and they just coasted. They beat the crap out of the team that, North Dakota State and South Dakota State struggled with and went 1-1. They beat the Missouri Valley champs.
Kylor, I'm sorry. It must be nice to play South Dakota, get up by some points, and then just coast and then just win. I guess some teams do that. They don't just give it away at the end. That's nice. Good for them.
They couldn't give it away. They were too good. They weren't bums who missed tackles. So, but I do think, either they're going to come away with this getting like super excited. Where last year or 2 years ago they lost to South Dakota State in a freaking Brookings. Was that last year too?
Yeah, that was. You're talking about.
Yeah, where they lost to the dominating champs of a free thing and
second
in the end zone, and they lost to North Dakota State in OT. Right, those are two very close games that should have went probably both Montana State's way, but unfortunately it didn't. So you're either going to come into this game with a chip on your shoulder and want to prove yourself. Now, sometimes if you get too emotional, that can affect how you play. I mean, I see it when I'm following MMA and UFC. Sometimes when you get too emotional, you make mistakes. You get too excited, you make mistakes. You don't play your game. So I don't know if this is going to be that negative aspect, kind of like what Jamie was saying. I mean, the Rev was saying. I did that one. That one wasn't even on purpose. Or if it's going to be the positive, like Matt's saying. I'm kind of split in between two. It just depends on how this team comes in. But I don't know. It seems like Vegan is making them very, very methodical with their approach. Maybe they won't get too crazy. Maybe they won't get too emotional. But it's definitely a monkey on their back. And I do think it plays maybe a bigger factor than years prior, just because it is that one kryptonite that they can't get past, and it's North Dakota State.
I think a telling sign will be when they do the the walk-ups from the buses into the stadium, right? And you see how Montana State walks in. Now, if they walk in calm and cool and ready for business, then that means that they're not letting the emotion of the game get to them, right? But if you see them coming in, like Kylor saying, hype, maybe overhyped, then you can see that there might be more of the mental aspect impacting them.
Absolutely. Yeah, but they didn't really have this question, but Vegan and the Bobcats, here's one thing, and we've seen it a million times, so it's rightful to say it, I think. These teams play North Dakota State and Frisco, they play them in the playoffs, and they do this thing where they're like, we're going to do what we do. That's a death sentence. I assure you the North Dakota State coaching staff they do it better than almost anybody in the country. It's why they've beaten more talented JMU teams. It's probably why they beat South Dakota State's, where they're just like, what the heck? It looks like we got a little bit out-coached. They find those little edges and adaptations. And Montana State cannot come into this just being the pound the chest, we're going to do what we're going to do. And I don't think Brent Vegan will do that, because I'm telling you, that could be the difference in a tight game. It really could be.
It could be, but also this might not still be the North Dakota of the 2010s. I mean, out of 3 of the last 4 years, they haven't been able to make those adjustments, right? In the spring season, Sam Houston State was more physical. You never thought that would happen, right? Then Montana, who didn't have any offense, just completely shut down, the Bison.
Yep.
Then you also had South Dakota State do whatever they wanted. It looked like, North Dakota State versus Towson. I mean, it was bad. So you say that, and I just want to keep you a little humble. This might not be the same North Dakota State team, even though they're in Frisco, as the 2010s where, they could do whatever they wanted and it's their own game. They haven't looked like it.
Yeah, I don't know about that, just because I think you're talking about a completely different staff that comes from the mentality of the past, but we will see how it goes.
Last year's staff?
I will say,
or the year prior staff?
Exactly.
Grant Olson was the defensive coordinator there.
I don't know.
Our first year offensive coordinator, first year.
I don't pay attention to Canada.
Oh, okay.
Wait, the coordinators who lost to South Dakota? Wow.
Trash.
Who does that?
Wow.
No.
Did they go in? Did they go into that game with South Dakota saying we do?
We all know. Listen, I will fold. We all know Montana.
I just want
State.
to have fun with Matt.
We all know Montana State's undefeated on our schedule. We know they are.
The only reason why I want to have fun with Matt is you can tell he's way too confident for some weird reason.
I know he
shouldn't be. It makes no sense.
Very cocky.
I don't know.
You can see it in your eyes.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is? You know what it is?
It's because of the past. They're 5-1 versus. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's nothing to do with anything we've seen this year.
Nope.
Because if you've watched any of the games this year, you wouldn't be confident.
Oh, Kylor,
it's the 5-1.
No. It's what I said on Mega Live. It's the double South Dakota State win. All Bison fans have it now. They beat South Dakota State twice, back-to-back champs, and so there's
this Montana State team would have beat South Dakota State by 21.
I don't disagree
with that too.
I don't disagree. It's giving us unfair confidence. But you know what?
It's 5-1. That's your confidence, buddy. It's 5-1.
That's it. All right, we'll see.
It's a
you know what else is my you know what else is my confidence here? You know what else is my confidence before we get on to Mr. Matt B's question here is how much the great Kylor Neal has had faith in North Dakota State this year. So that has given me a lot of confidence. So I will say this. Mega Live, everything we did, there was a lot of North Dakota State talk. So I hope people who are listening to this pod now have enjoyed hearing about this number one team. It feels like they've been number one all year, but they do deserve a lot more talk and discussion, because while SDSU and NDSU were in it, that's where a lot of the discussion revolved around. And Montana State deserves their time to be recognized. If they go 16-0, it's not a mystery. But before they go 16-0, they're going to need a good defensive effort. And that's where Mr. Matt B asks us, how impressive has the Montana State defense been? This is a great question, because one of the narratives that's out there, I've seen it on Twitter, I've seen it in DMs, I've seen it on Facebook, is that Montana State may be better and they're going to win, but North Dakota State is going to score a lot of points. That's what people are saying. Oh, they'll at least put up 28, 30 points, but Montana State's just going to put up 38, 40 or something like that. Reality or not there, Kylor? How impressive has Montana State's defense been? Can it actually shut down North Dakota State the way a Valley team has done to them?
Their defense has been pretty dang impressive. The only thing, and this is, again, I don't even know if it's really a weakness, but this is maybe their weakness. So maybe I lied to you guys. There's a reason why on the chat, and you guys won't know this if you're listeners, but on the chat, 5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I was saying North Dakota State has the best shot to beat Montana State. Their offense is very dynamic. So the difference is Montana State's defense has played really well, but there's been a couple times where they have struggled, and it's versus dynamic offenses who are very creative, right? We watched them get up on a big lead versus UC Davis. Now UC Davis, they can run, they can pass, their dynamic offense. They closed that gap. They ended up, coming back and making it a close game. Eastern, as shitty as they are, they have a very dynamic offense. It creates a lot of, looks. You gotta pay attention to the outside, the inside. It's a dynamic offense. Montana State actually struggled versus them. Then you actually go play South Dakota. Very dynamic offense. They can rush, they can pass. Well, now you're looking at this North Dakota State team. Dynamic offense who can run the ball, who can throw the ball. So even though Montana State's defense has looked extremely phenomenal, the 3 games where maybe they've not looked the best, it's been against teams that can do a little bit of both. UC Davis, Eastern, South Dakota. And again, now we're going to go play North Dakota State, who is one of those teams who could do both, just with a stronger defense. So now that's where it gets interesting, and that's where, I'm excited. But yeah, the defense has been impressive until they played a few of those teams. And even in those games, the defense still was good. I mean, good enough. I mean, they held South Dakota to 17 points. That's pretty damn good. But there was a lapse of a little bit of, like Matt said earlier, tackling. He started seeing some things. But again, you held them to 17 points. North Dakota State gave up 30 to them. Eastern, as good as they were, you still held them to 24 points or something like that? I don't remember. 28. So, yeah, their defense was still pretty good in those. Maybe it was just the UC Davis comeback in the fourth quarter that's even making it look a little bit worse than it is.
Kyler, quick follow-on question, and please don't go down the rabbit hole, because I know you could here. I know the style of this comp is bad. I recognize what I'm about to say.
Yes.
The style of this comp is bad. 2018 Eastern, this Montana State team, in terms of offense and defensive ability, efficiency, and greatness, not style, fair comp or no?
Actually, it's not even.
Eastern was really good.
It's not even a bad comp offensive wise once Eastern had all their injuries and you had a very young Eric Berrier come in. So actually, I like your comp offensively. Defensively, Eastern was actually pretty strong in 2018, but I think this Montana State defense is probably stronger. Maybe only, and I don't have the stats in front of me, maybe the only thing that Eastern was actually truly better at was, creating turnovers. It seemed like they got to the ball pretty dang fast. They gave up a lot of big plays, but they got to the ball and had people make mistakes, where Montana State doesn't give up a lot of big plays. They're a little more methodical in their defense. You really have to grind to get your first downs, where against Eastern, you didn't have to grind too much. But Eastern probably had that 2018 was a very underrated defense. But offensively, I think it is good comp when we had most of our starters out for that North Dakota State game, and we came more of a run heavy, trying to, especially with Sam McPherson, we were running the ball pretty dang well, and we threw the ball a little bit. But probably Montana State with Tommy Malotte's even a better passer than what Eric Berrier was as a sophomore in his first 4 games.
Okay. Yeah. I kind of just
actually like that comparison, though. I think that's not bad.
Yeah. Very impressive. Obviously more seniors, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But just a really good Big Sky team all around, where they get unfair hate on a defense that's actually really talented. So the Rev, my man, anything with this Montana State defense that you have noticed that gives you a lot of hope for them to be victorious, I guess?
No, they're really good for a team who hasn't played anybody this year. I'm only kidding. That's the other dumbest take I've heard all year from folks saying Montana State hadn't played anybody. No, they played folks. They showed it. No, Kylor absolutely nailed it, though, about offenses that are creative and and aren't one-dimensional. They have struggled against offenses similar to what North Dakota State can do. So I'll be interested to see how they adjust to that, and maybe playing South Dakota, a week ago, while they're not entirely similar, but an offense that can change around both run and throw. Maybe it gets them ready and keeps them loose for this game. But no, Kylor nailed the one point I had on the defense.
Absolutely. And I will just say this, there's not a North Dakota State question in there for this, but you know what? Since, I like my team. Why wouldn't you feel confident about your team? The bad narratives about the North Dakota State Bison and all this, yes, the tackling wasn't great, but they're only, look at that, 12th and 18th in total defense separation right there. Their rushing defense, pretty darn close to where Montana State's is. So there is a lot of talent on that side of the ball. I think a lot of the Bobcat Nation is like, thank goodness we don't have to play SDSU. I think we match up better. But like Kylor said, maybe it might be the Bison. We will find out later for predictions, maybe later in the week. We have 2 more questions, though, in the Big Six, and 2 important topics, starting with this one. Mr. Steven Wagner. Steve, I think you're going down to Frisco. I hope to see you down there. You're one of the great YouTube commenters and humans that we know. Restaurant recommendations for Frisco, he says. My hotel, of course you're going to Frisco. It's in your question. My hotel 4 miles from the stadium will be my first time since airline canceled my flight last time the Cats made it. All right, Steven, make sure you stop by, buy you some beer. Restaurant recommendations. Come on, Rev. We're in Frisco. He's 4 miles from the stadium. Where are the places to eat?
Well, seeing as how you're not a North Dakota State fan, I will leave a slew of restaurants off the recommendations. No, if you're 4 miles away from the stadium, I pretty much know in the area you're staying in, and there's a lot of good places down there. You get down on Friday, there's Perry's, but there's also Hutchins Barbecue. There's there's Babe's Chicken House in Frisco. There was this really badass Mexican restaurant down by Stonebriar Mall that Thumper and I went to, and I cannot think of its name, but it had some of the best margaritas I've ever had in my life there.
I'm interested. I'm in.
Yeah, I'll look it up so we can go, because it was good. But the point is this: like, there is a lot of good food in Texas, but you are coming to Texas. You don't need a fiddle to do this. Eat barbecue, right? Eat all the beef you can, because that's what we do here. Don't waste your time going to Whataburger. Don't waste your time going anything like that. Go get the good barbecue. Hutchins, Heart Eight. I forgot the other one. Crap, Hutchins, Heart Eight, and there's another one that are all worth going to.
That's Kylor. Do you have anything specific for Mr. Wagner down there?
Or no? I will say, and Rev already hit on this, but Rev and I, we do this quite a bit on Fridays every now and then. So if you are there Friday early for lunch, go to Perry's and get the pork chop. It's $20, and it is worth every minute of it. It's normally like a $50 pork chop, but on Friday they have a special. I forgot, it's up till 3 p.m.
It's till 3 p.m. Yep.
So again, I think Perry's is only in Texas, but I could be wrong.
No, they have one in Chicago.
Do they have one in Chicago?
Because I had to do a work dinner there, and my buddy was like, "Have you been to this place?" And I was like, "Dude,
they're everywhere, right?"
Yeah, but no, if you get there, if you get there Thursday, flying in, you're making a super long weekend of it, or if you get there Friday morning, go to Perry's, get the pork chop.
It's a nice steakhouse. Now, we all look like bums when we went in there. I was like, normally I wear a polo because it's for lunch. And it's, I go to work and then I go to lunch, but I was like, even me, I'm going to wear a hat. And I just felt awkward being in there with a hat, t-shirt. So don't be an a-hole like we were, where there's 20 people and all of us look like bums and we shouldn't be there. It is a nice steakhouse. Maybe wear a polo and just do your hair or take a shower. Just take a shower before you go there, because I actually felt bad because of all of us.
They got tipped really well though. For
sure.
And whenever I had 4 of the old fashions that they had, in Palomas, it was good. But no, that's definitely worth the stop. But man, like I said, just eat the things that you don't get to eat at home, right? You hear about Texas barbecue, get barbecue. You hear about Tex-Mex, go get Tex-Mex. Although Kylor thinks Tex-Mex is mid versus other places, but it's things you hear about, right? It's that's what you want to do. So go do those things and enjoy your time.
You guys can't get your Rocky Mountain oysters. Sorry. I know you guys like it up there in Canada and your poutine and Rocky Mountain oysters, but
we don't have Tim Hortons down there, unfortunately.
We have it in Katy.
Oh yeah, that's true. We do have a Tim Hortons. I bet there is.
Yeah,
I bet there's one in Frisco. Canadian invasion.
Here you go. Always nice people. Tip well. And I guess, Stephen, if you are planning to go to a place that's more sports themed and everything, remember North Dakota State, not myself, tons of Minnesota Vikings fans. I don't know what time the game is for Vikings and Lions next Sunday, but I tell you what, if you're going to try to go to a place that's a sports bar that's going to be showing that game, and you're just like, oh, we'll just waddle in, NDSU fans who are overwhelmingly Minnesota Vikings fans will be packed in those places to try to find a seat. So
who's taking over the South Dakota State bars?
Montana State is the local.
That place, the local. That place is awesome. So definitely go there. I think the local is awesome.
The nice thing about it not being South Dakota State this year is that you can probably get a beer at a decent rate at the local this year.
I don't think so. Montana State traveled just as much, if not more, last year.
They're also going to Concrete Cowboy. They have a whole bunch of places spread out. Okay. So maybe the local learn their lesson. Maybe they're like, okay, you know what, we'll stock up on stuff this year, but maybe not. You never know.
Well, hopefully they put on a good Tippy Cup and live show if they do have something at the local.
Undefeated
All right, guys, you brought them up. So here we go. This will be the only non-Frisco topic we talk about, but how could we not? Rev, you put a few questions in the gold pages. You are a great gold member, and we're still going to answer your questions even though you're on the podcast. We don't care. You asked, does South Dakota State have the power of JMU and NDSU post massive turnover on all fronts? Are they that program? We all know the news. Jimmy Rogers goes with his staff. They're heading out to Washington State. Their star receiver, Wildy, has a no contact tag, and he's out in the portal. Mark Gronowski is now doing the Cam Ward move. Mark Gronowski was never coming back to South Dakota State. He made that very clear. He was going to go to the NFL draft, but now he's doing the Cam Ward thing where he's in the portal. He'll see if maybe there's a team better out there, and then he might go to the draft. We'll see. Anyways, players also will now have 30 days to jump into the portal. We don't know who from South Dakota State is going to jump out at the end. Are we going to have an NDSU situation where the new coach is like Tim Polsek and basically keeps everybody? Or are these guys going to flock to a Washington State team where Washington State currently had 32 of their own players in the portal over the last 2 months? There are slots to fill. And if Jimmy Rogers wants the talent he recruited South Dakota State, you're talking like 17 3-stars for young guys, or maybe some of the guys coming back. Odds are he's going to be able to get them. We don't need to discuss South Dakota State and what's going to happen to them there. They're going to lose guys, coaches, and they're not going to be remotely as good as they have been the last few years. They could still win the title, but they're not going to be as good. So here's the question. Do they have the staying power of James Madison and NDSU? And Kylor, this is Rev's question. So you get to have your first dibs at it, man. What do you think about the Jacks moving forward?
Yeah, I think this is a different era and different realm because of NIL, because of the portal. I think it's different than it ever was even back in the 2010s when NDSU was a power and JMU, even the late 2010s. It's completely different. There's real money being passed around. So here's what I'll say. The top teams are going to lose a lot. But if you have amazing facilities, amazing fan bases, if you are the NFL team in your state, like the Montanas, like the Dakotas, you have a very good shot to stay at the top in this new era. Because at the FCS level, outside of maybe the SWAC, you can actually get paid. You're going to have a collective, right? You're going to get paid. You have amazing fans who actually care. You have administrative people who are actually investing in the programs. You have nice facilities. So yeah, the staying power can be there because I think most of the FCS is going to continue to get worse. I do feel that they're going to get, power, but we're going to be on rotation mode in the FCS. So even if you're at least on rotation mode, if you're South Dakota State, you're probably going to get better athletes than maybe most of the other FCS teams because, again, look at the support. Look at the environment. When you have people on visits, and I'm going to throw my team out there, if you're visiting Eastern Washington in front of 2,500 fans, yes, they have this amazing history, and then you go South Dakota State and do a game visit, why the hell would you go to Eastern? Unless you just don't want to live in the cold. But it's cold there too. But I mean, again, at the end of the day, these are FBS programs in terms of resources, facilities, fan bases, people that care about the sport. These are FCS programs in an FCS league that just hasn't had an opportunity or an invite to move up. So they're definitely better equipped to stay at the top. It may not be the dynasty or, back-to-back national championships. It may not be NDSU's level because they don't have the historic relevance as NDSU yet, right? But it would be even crazy to think that they're not going to be a playoff team after they lose everyone, right? And if they're still a playoff team and they lose everyone, get butchered by their coach, and then everyone jumps in the portals, get more money, maybe go to Washington State, maybe get other opportunities, and you're still a playoff team, you're still dominating top 3 in the Valley, then guess what? Next year, you'll retain some of that talent. You'll probably get better. So, yeah, I don't think any NDSU is going anywhere. Maybe they're just not a title contender next year, but name 5 other programs that you would pick to beat them even if they lose everyone. You probably can't.
No, and that's the thing. That's the thing you said, Kylor, which is why I'm gonna take this in a little bit of a different perspective. But before I do, and it sounds like I'm just Jack hating a little bit, I'm not. That is the point that will stick no matter what I say, which is I don't trust the rest of the FCS because of stuff that you just said, Sam Herder said. Who's putting in the money? Who's putting in the support? Who has the facilities? South Dakota State has it. Now, Mar Johnson did go on the live stream of 4,000 people on Jackrabbit Illustrated last night, and he put a Facebook comment up that said, maybe basically saying South Dakota State doesn't invest in the NIL, and maybe they should. They're going to have no problem, he said, keeping players if they would actually invest in the NIL. And the Green and Gold Collective of NDSU, which was brought up a lot, real thing, millions of dollars. Like NDSU fans have been like, we don't like it, but we have to do it. And Gray Zabel, big offensive lineman we've got this year, Cam Miller, the offers that those guys got, those are real. That's real money.
Yeah.
And NDSU did not get them that same amount of money, but they got them enough to be comfortable. So SDSU is going to have to invest in that to continue to be the top tier, because the question that Rev has here is JMU and NDSU. And that is my question for South Dakota State fans on this little mini rant. Who will you be now? Because are you just the end of Stig's legacy and he got it done? And love that human and everything he stood for. He got the class, he molded it North Dakota State, and he got the victories, and they earned every single piece of it. I understand that. But do we know what South Dakota State was before all that? I love my Jack friends. Don't be mad at me. You're New Hampshire. Prior to Stig's final thing, you are the New Hampshire Wildcats. Let's go through New Hampshire 2012 to 2022. Second round, semifinals, first round, second round, quarterfinals, second round. About South Dakota State prior to this thing, right? 2012 to 2018, second round, first round, quarterfinals, semifinals. Never getting over that hump. What are you now, South Dakota State? Will you put in the money, the time, and the investment to be JMU and NDSU? Because that is the thing. JMU and NDSU are programs that survive everything. NDSU has 3 losing seasons in like 70 years. JMU loses Mike Houston, all these guys, all these things. They take one little dip with a playoff exit to Colgate, and they're back up in the national titles. They're playing in bowl games. Nothing kills the program. The program and the entity and everything about it just keeps going like an engine. Well, South Dakota State, in D2 days, USD was the football program. You had one playoff game you went to, and you got blown out in like 1971. USD was the one who made it to a semifinal, made it to a quarterfinal. Your early jump with NDSU got you to this point in this change. I'm not trying to destroy the Jacks here. I'm just saying, besides the Stig ending, now is your opportunity. Will you be the Bison where everything burned down from the spring COVID season? It all burned down. Transfers, Lance is out, injuries, Sam Houston beats you, and you win the title the next year. Jesus, the Grizz beat you in overtime. South Dakota State spanks you. So Matt Entz moves on, new coach. In comes Paulsek, back to the national title. That's my question for Jack fans. Because to be JMU and NDSU, you get back. You may go down 1 year, maybe 2, but if you are the perennial, the powerhouse, you will get back. And we're going to see if they are that. Now we will see.
I don't think they're ever going to lose a Holy Cross, though. So is JMU really a powerhouse?
That's true.
Right, Jamie up there?
That's true.
Yeah.
And I will give them that. Basically, all their playoff losses, in fact, I'm looking at it right now, besides Sam Houston State, is Northern Iowa, and then it's just literally Montana, North Dakota State, and James Madison. So
and Eastern.
Eastern's in there too. But I almost wanted to get that ran out to be like, I'm almost pulling for you. Like I almost, it's like, come on, you have everything, but it's on them now to show it. And we need to see it. Starts with the coaching hire.
If only there was a certain football account that could hear you saying these words to them. But I digress. But no, like the big thing South Dakota State has, they have a really good AD in Justin Sell. And he has turned around a lot of their programs, which were just, crap. Look at their women's basketball, look at the volleyball program, look at all these programs that, may not be the money makers, but he took them from garbage, got the right coaches, and they are now, winning the Summit. And I think, he'll find the right coach for South Dakota State. The other thing too is, let's say they lose players. Let's say Chase Mason goes in the portal. Let's say Angel Johnson goes in the portal. Let's say all those guys go in the portal. There's 7,000 kids right now looking for places. There's a lot of talent in the portal right now who are not going to find homes. I don't think it'll be hard for South Dakota State to rebuild if they get the right coach and get the right players. And maybe they'll keep the players. Maybe they'll bring in somebody back like Lujan. I know he's probably getting that good Northwestern money, but he wants to be a head coach and he's tied into that program. I think they can easily recover from this. But the other point, and the point that Amar Johnson brought up, was the fact that SFA, my tiny ass school, has a good collective and South Dakota State doesn't have a good one. That's a South Dakota State problem that has to be resolved, because unfortunately that's what it is now. Until they rein in the transfer portal, until they do some other things, it's all about the money. You have to bring the money. And US fans, as much as you think, oh man, I buy season tickets, or oh man, I buy merch. I do this to be enough. It's not enough anymore. Maybe, and I don't know what they do. I know they're getting a new person in charge of their collective, which would be good. But yeah, you as fans have to invest in NIL for your school. You have to put forth the extra, whatever it is, $20 a month, $50 a month, $100 a month, do whatever you got to do. You've got to do it, because if you're not, other schools are, and they are going to woo away all your talent.
Yeah, there's just the last kind of point when we're looking at like the FCS landscape, and this is where I have a little more faith in South Dakota State. I get NIL is a big thing. I have a lot of faith they're going to figure out their collective. You look at their fan base. Again, they are the top team in their state. They're going to figure it out. I have a lot more faith in teams where they're in their own state and they don't have any competition. Their only competition is a rival who they're just going to make each other work a little bit harder. But if you're looking at the grand scheme of things for the FCS landscape on who's actually investing, you have basically Sac State, UC Davis, the Montanas, the Dakotas, Tarleton, and maybe you can say Idaho and NAU. Most of them are in the Big Sky, but I think half of those teams in the Big Sky are probably going to go to the Mountain West. I would be very shocked if Sac State and UC Davis were not gone within the next 2 years. So then you're only still looking at maybe 5 teams that are going to be investing into football, into athletics at the elite level of the FCS, if the Dakotas don't get an invite. So that's where I go. Who else? Even it's not the same as the 2010s. Just who else is going to be able to be consistent to put up the fan base experience, the game day experience, talent, NFL development? Who else is going to be able to do it? Even if you don't have a lot of money, because it's not like outside of North Dakota State. I know you're talking about SFA's collective. How much is the highest guy getting paid? It can't be much. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, sure, maybe you can make $10,000 here, but you play at South Dakota State, you're going to get more eyes on you. You're going to have a better time, and it will set you up to have a much bigger offer down the road from maybe another program. So that's where I just have a lot of faith in the Dakotas to stay at the top, because again, when you are your NFL team, when you are your P5 team in your state, that does matter. And they are going to be able to invest money. The fans, now they've finally seen winning seasons. They've finally seen titles. It's only going to increase from here. So I have a lot of faith that South Dakota State ain't going anywhere. They're not going to be a title contender every single year. But again, who else is going to be? There's only a handful of people that can be.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And SDSU, can they stay powers, JMU and NDSU? Throw NDSU out there. They're outliers. Nobody is NDSU. It is what it is. So can they be JMU of now? That's going to be on South Dakota State and what they're going to do forward. And I think the odds are pretty high, but it's a big challenge. It's easy when you are undefeated, winning, and have a great roster and a great class to say things like standard and it's different here and say the Bison things. But then once it all turns over and you got to start again, can you do it? We're going to find out. That is a lot of words, which makes people really hungry. And we actually, in a week, will be eating tacos together.
Taco King, coming to you from bright and sunny Fargo, North Dakota. It's time for a taco bet, and time for you losers to pay up.
The losers will be together, and a few of us who are winners of these taco bets. Mr. JMC says, over under on how many gallons of beer will be consumed in Frisco by Montana State and NDSU fans. That's not the actual taco bet, but it sets it up. Thank you, Jay. And if we see you down there, please come get a beer from us. So I made this one. This is made up. This will be fun because we'll all cheer when we see it. Which fan base gets on the video board for a beer snake first? Doesn't matter the length. It's just what you're doing with it. Doesn't matter the length of the beer snake, okay? It just has to appear. So if 2 people, let's say 2 people have got the beer snake going, will it be Montana State fans or NDSU fans that are going to be on the board for that beer snake? Taco bet. What do you think, Rev? Which fan base gets on there with the beer snake first?
Well, I was going to say it was going to be me and Kylor this year, but somebody's looking, looking quite healthy. So I don't know if that's going to be a thing. But
I'm drinking in Frisco. I'm just going to throw up on myself.
Kylor and I are going to make the beer snake first. No, honestly, like I think Montana State fans will be the first ones to do it, and it's not going to be any like sort of thing involving, you know, whether it's poor performance or awesome performance. I just think that they're going to be so excited to be back in there. They're going to be going a little more nuts than maybe North Dakota State fans are. And I think I can see that happening. Now, of course, if it turns out to be like 2021, then yeah, definitely you'll see that beer snake in the first quarter. But no, I think Montana State will be the first ones to do it.
Getting the Bobcats on there. I think my theory is solid here. Biased and unbiased. The Bison fans are going to take this as a party and not think they're going to lose until like they are about to lose. And I saw Montana State fans in 2021, and I categorized them as the best fans I interacted with. They were so kind, but boy, were they nervous. Pre-game throughout Frisco, they just were nervous. And nervous does not equal party time, baby. And I think NDSU fans are going to bring the party time because they're like, we're going to go, we're going to win. They have confidence. So I think they'll do a beer snake in the first quarter and they'll get on the TV because they're overconfident. So I'll take the Bison fans. Kylor, split it down the middle.
I think whoever has the biggest student section is going to probably have the beer snake.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the fastest beer snake I've ever seen was from Montana State.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's because they were done and they just wanted to drink their sorrows away because the game was not there. So I get Matt, you were saying they were nervous, but that beer snake was going real fast and it was continuing out of quite a bit because the game was over before.
Well, yeah, dude. Once the girl starts dancing with someone else on the dance floor, you sit at the bar and you get hammered.
Yeah. But I think right now, if you've watched the games, Montana State's fan base is a little more ruckus than ever. I mean, their atmosphere has been wild. I think they're going to have quite a bit more younger people than maybe the Dakotas. So I think that beer snake is going to happen, and I'd probably say maybe from Montana State fans. But really, it's whoever's losing by a good amount or whoever has more students is going to start the snake first. So let me go with the Bobcats. I think they're going to have more young student type of age group in the game.
I mean, hear me out. We've got 12 seats in a row. We could knock this out. We could
actually
on TV.
I also could be very wrong on the young people because the average flight, someone sent me a message to fly out of like Spokane, Bozeman, and Boise was like $1,800.
Yeah. The flight.
So, and it's a much further drive to get to Frisco than North Dakota is.
I got faith in your drive, younglings. I bet they take the mountains. They throw in the carpools and down they go. That takes me back to my 2011 days. Well, no matter how you guys get down there, we hope you get down there safely. And if you are drinking, we also hope you drink safely. And we'll see how quick the snake gets up there.
Just because your question is answered quickly doesn't mean we don't care. It's time for this week's Quick Hit Questions.
Quick Hit Questions, one of our final segments here. Before the title, Jay says, do you think NDSU will try to take out Tommy's ankle again? And then he says, I'm kidding. He says, I'm kidding. He wants to make sure, you know, that we're just joking around with that one. No, I will say this, though. If Tommy Mellott went down in this game, the impact is incredible. And no, we want no players injured. We don't want that damn turf in Frisco to cause any problems. Healthy, best team wins. If Tommy Mellott had played all game in 2021, you might have got 10 more points, and NDSU wouldn't have slowed, and they would have been 50-17. The Montana State defense wasn't stopping them. So that being said, on to the next one. Asa says, what are the biggest defensive adjustments NDSU will have to make to slow down the strong run of Montana State? Kylor, I have to go to you on this because you're like, man, this is a different beast. What adjustments do they have to make?
Oh, man. They have to get to the quarterback. And they have to get fast. That's one thing Montana State's O-line has probably been underrated on. They only give up like 1 sack every 3 games. Or maybe it's 2 sacks every 3 games, but it's they're top 5 in not giving up any type of sacks. So if you can get to the quarterback early, if you can disrupt the offensive O-line with your front 7, then maybe you can slow down that rushing game. Maybe you can create some mistakes as well. But that's where Montana State's probably been the most underrated all year. It's their offensive line. So you got to attack that thing better than anyone else. So you can have an opportunity to slow it down, get to Tommy before he hands off the ball, basically.
Absolutely. And I would say the other adjustment would be this is it's a lot of that RPO. He's going to run, he's going to pass. When he does pass, it's very efficient because they've got that play set up to where you think they're going to run and that ball is going to go. So I would say the defensive adjustment is preparation. NDSU, can you know what this play is going to look like, and can you bait him into a turnover? Because that would be the complement to the NDSU turnover or NDSU defense. They are turnover machines this year. They have forced a ton of turnovers. So we'll see if that happens. What players do you think will enter the portal after the game, Liam says. Liam also says, do you think either head coach will be at an FBS school this time next year? I will give you the portal question. I don't know if we really want to go down that rabbit hole. I'll just say it could be a bunch of them. It could be none of them. There's big names out there like Bryce Lances and others, of course. They're going to get big deals. Burner phones are already going, and we'll just see if the teams are able to retain them. Won't shock me at all if those guys who especially been in the programs a few years go off, get their money, and try to find a new opportunity at a bigger level. But we hope not, because it's good for the FCS. In terms of the head coaches, I don't think so. I think from what we've heard from some of our sources is that job at Washington State, besides a few factors we won't mention, was basically Vegans to take. And things kind of fell apart. And it sounds like Jimmy Rogers was the second guy. So if you haven't seen that all over Twitter and Facebook, we shouldn't be breaking any crazy news, because that's definitely seems to be the thing. Beyond that, Mr. Alex Kenkel says, what specials do the restaurants offer to maximize their profits in their last visit for the foreseeable future from the green and gold? Rev, explain this comment by Mr. Alex, a Cowboys and Jacks fan. What do you have? What does this mean?
Every time I have gone to Frisco, before going with the nice gentleman here, I've gone with Bison fans that I've known. And we've always wound up at Tight Ends or Twin Peaks or one of the restaurants like that. And it's always full of NDSU fans. Hell, Brendan and I did an interview with KFGO from Wild Pitch, or it might have been Tight Ends, right? A radio interview. They had the damn radio station there broadcasting from this place while we were there. So no, I don't know. Is it just because it's cold in Fargo that you guys don't see breasts? I don't get that they're scantily clad women. I don't get it. Do you just love microwave food because it's cold? Like I don't understand this. But yeah, so no, if they're gonna run a special, it's probably gonna be 2-for-1 breasts. All week.
It's a Michael Scott joke on this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know what the cultural obsession is with it up there. Maybe it's because North Dakota Nice, like the most evil thing you could do in party town is go to a Hooters style restaurant. I have no clue. You won't find me there because their food sucks compared to a great place like Chili's or Applebee's. And all about the food, gentlemen.
Hey, one thing though, before you go about it, North Dakota State fans, just remember that waitress actually likes you, so make sure you tip her more.
100%. Yep, they are infatuated with the dollar bills in your pocket. Jason Plotkin, the great, says, as Frisco tenure that has been synonymous with NDSU comes to a likely close with the move to Nashville, what are longtime Bison football athletic admin and fans feeling as far as nostalgia goes with Frisco? I'll make it very simple. I just remember 2011 driving down the road, seeing a few houses, one strip mall, and we wanted to see where the stadium was 2 days prior. Went down 2011 the first year driving with our buddies, and we saw a water tower, an open field, and a stadium and a road, and we're like, is that where the game is? Like, oh my gosh, there it is. And there's nothing. There's just nothing there. Wide open spaces. I would say the nostalgia would just be, boy, what that place has become. And I don't want to kill everybody's time, but it's just crazy to think about what NDSU has done and how long they've been there, to the fact that this place was basically the start of what is now a mega boom town where the Dallas Cowboys moved in. So pretty crazy, but Allegiant flights are direct to Nashville. So Bison fans aren't that disappointed. Kylor, finally give you one here, my man. With the amount of movement with the transfer portal, how the hell will Jamie do his preseason 1 through 127? That's a Rev question. How do you think Jamie's going to handle that?
He's just gonna make shit up like he always does, and At the end of the day, no one pays attention to anyone after 35 anyway. So who cares? Jamie's just going to pick something and go, this conference sucks. They're probably going to be at the bottom like any other person would do. Yeah, you can't anymore. You can put 127 teams down, but that's all you're doing. So I love you, Jamie, but let's be honest with each other.
He's probably more accurate than any human on planet Earth, though. Hey, Kylor, since you have all the answers, Dan Martin says, how about the biggest question in college football? How do you fix the transfer portal? You and I were talking, transfer portal sucks. It sucks for college football. How do you fix it?
I don't think you can anymore. I think this is just a whole different beast. You opened up a can of worms and every single worm fell out and now you can't fish anymore because there's nothing. I don't think you can fix it, man. I think this is gone. The college football as we knew it is gone. It is what it is. This is the semi-pro league. Maybe how you could fix it is if you play at an FCS team, you can't do NIL. But again, no, it's dead. College football's dead.
It doesn't.
It's alive, and it's extremely alive, but it's dead at the same time.
I'll just go fast because Rev and I are in the same wavelength. Maybe contracts a commissioner and free agency actually could fix it up. That would be the one thing that might give you an ability to retain kids and grow them. But
people.
We'll see how it goes. Did SDSU unblock you yet? Says Dylan Kramer. That one's for me. South Dakota State football, which their Twitter account is famous for blocking you. Like it's famous, at least amongst Bison fans. Because here's the thing, Bison fans, you're a bunch of assholes. You're jerks. You're mean to other accounts, and you deserve to be blocked because you're mean.
So are you.
So here's the thing.
Pat says so.
I took it passionately that I've never been blocked by South Dakota State. I've been blocked by their Twitter because I don't say anything bad. In fact, all I do is I look at their post. Yes, I bet you could find a bad tweet for me at them probably in 2010, 2011. Okay. But I haven't been blocked in the last decade. And out of nowhere, I got blocked yesterday, as did Karen. Karen is a grandma on Twitter who's amazing and just puts heart and bison emojis and says thank you to everybody. And she got blocked. I think South Dakota State, the admin who ran it, I think they were getting hammered by NDSU fans, and he just looked at NDSU when he searched. And he just saw anyone with pro NDSU for the last 24 hours and just went on a block fest. That's my theory.
I think he's soft. I think that's my theory. He's Charmin ultra soft.
Well, thank you to the Jackrabbit Illustrated guys for starting the free Frazee hashtag and trying to get me unblocked because, like my good friend Patrick always says, you're one of the best guys who supports South Dakota State, and he wants me to be unblocked. So
100%.
That's and I might still see him in Frisco. I don't know if he's making the trip. All right, guys, last one here. Kylor, is it going to be surreal that this could potentially be the last FCS championship attended in Frisco? And then Rev wants to know what is going to be the one thing we feel we need to do next weekend while we're there as a last hurrah. Surreal, Kylor, or no?
No, for one, I think they're going to come back eventually anyway. Frisco is going to bid a lot of money, but also, who cares? I mean, Nashville is way better than Frisco in every aspect. And hopefully we get some better sites like down in Miami, Arizona, Las Vegas. I'm tired. It's a nice, easy drive for me. It's close, but Dallas does nothing for me. So I could care less. As of what are we going to do? We're just going to hang out with our buddies like we always do. And that's all I care about. At the end of the day, it's a fun football game, fun environment with some pretty crazy fans. But it's also just, getting time to spend with you guys. I know that sounds stupid and soft, but, I love all you guys. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, no, I got to go with Kylor's answer. I think people understand. People are like, so you podcasters, like you guys just coordinate through the week? I was like, I message these guys 7,000 times more than my wife, my mom, my dad, more than I hug my kids. Mad. Like people, you can judge me all you want. I think I'm a good dad, a good husband, but boy, we message a ton, and it's not always about football. So I'm really excited to see you guys. I will say this: if it leaves Frisco forever, I would have loved one more opportunity, Kylor, to have gotten an Airbnb in the Old Town area we did in the spring season. That was such a cool vibe. It was like we were in a different city area. I was close to the water tower, and things were great. So that would have been my one thing.
You could walk to the stadium if you wanted.
Yeah, it was cool. You got those little food carts. That was sick. So going to that old school Frisco original town would have been sweet. But the Airbnb we got this year should be pretty slick. So hopefully that answers your question, Rev. And that does bring us to the end of the quick hits. And I will say, if you noticed, we missed a few of your questions. We had a few ones here from Liam, Kylor Elliott, from Hank. Hank wants to know about NDSU, Montana State, South Dakota State. Different teams, different QBs. Who's going to be the lead dog next year? What sort of victory song will be used in Nashville, considering we're not going to be in Texas for fiddle and a band?
Thank God.
Says Tyler. And Liam wants to know, USD and UND have not shown they could be consistent as contenders. As the Missouri Valley weekend, will NDSU seek that FBS invite? Gentlemen, thank you for asking the questions. We got them in the podcast. Join us post Frisco. Probably 3-4 days after, we will post our finale episode. Ask those questions again, and please look forward to the future, because our finale episode will be a little bit of recap of Frisco, but it's going to be the fun one where we get to project the next season, talk about the unknown, and just kind of look forward a little bit. Oh, a little bit of a cliffhanger there.
You know what I just thought about? So
What's
sorry, guys, this is kind of rambling, but the national titles in Nashville next year. The talent we can get to sing the national anthem is going to be pretty cool.
Oh my
There's
gosh,
so many people there. I mean,
100%.
you have Matt Frazie's who are like the most talented people in the world in Nashville. Yeah. So that could be kind of cool. I wonder what we're going to get, some local person who we've never heard of, who's the most talented person in the world.
I always say when you go down Broadway that every cover band you see in those bars is better than any band you will see at home, because they're all trying to make it in Nashville. Musicians. It's gonna be great. I already know NDSU fans are making a Google Doc on what restaurants are close to Vanderbilt. So gonna be ready for next year.
Yeah, Vanderbilt will be sweet. It's one of the best universities in Tennessee. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are down in Frisco, we hope to see you. Here's the thing. What makes Frisco number one, and if you've made it all the way through this podcast, on your drive, on your flight, on your layover, anything, is meeting you guys. It is the number one thing. It's hanging out with the people that we interact with a lot with the podcast network. We love it, but nothing is better than when people approach Rainbow Row and us in the tailgates when we are SFA colors and we're Eastern Washington colors. We're all these different colors of shirts, and you guys come together. And I think what you'll notice when you meet us face to face is we're just as fun as we are in the pod. We're fun. You guys are always so kind, and it makes for a great opportunity. Plus, you probably have seen our recap videos if you watch this show enough. And I try, every person I take a photo with, everybody who introduces themselves, I try as hard as possible to get those photos in the recap video. So if you want a good 3-minute memory of your time in Frisco, undoubtedly, if you find us, you're going to find yourself on that. Follow us on Twitter, myself, Jamie Williams, the Rev, Kylor. Heck, Sam Herder will probably tweet out when we go for our night out together. Find the podcasters, the JI Illustrated guys. Follow them on Twitter, because all where they're tweeting is where we're going to be. So it should be a good game. Should be exciting. And Rev, before we fly out and move out, I will give you the final words before I send us out. Any final thoughts before the net?
Yeah, one thing to echo. Like, if you find me, I'll buy you a beer, right? I'll buy these guys beers. I buy people beers all the time, because it's just a great weekend to be with everybody. Matt nailed it when he said, you guys make this all worth it. And it's been one hell of a year. We got one hell of a game left to go, and may the best team win.
Heck yeah.
Boom. Still got this guy too.
That's a nice koozie.
It is.
Is that hard?
Beast.
Is that like a Yeti?
Yeah, it's a Yeti from Matt.
Damn.